Okay. Next, we have the go to the cause for the public, where folks are invited to express themselves on school-related matters of concern to allow for a fair and orderly public comment period. Individual comments are limited to 5 minutes. Members of the public are reminded this is a public televised meeting of the Board of Education. To protect the privacy of all students and staff, concerns regarding individual students or staff issues or administrative issues must first be addressed by speaking with the appropriate administrative staff. We can always help you locate that individual. And on that note, we have the good of the cause. When you come up, please do state your name and address for the record.
I don't read this. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Yu Huan Chen, and I live in Willis Court, 9 Willis Court. First, I'd like to present some paperwork to Board of Education members.
You can hand it to the Assistant Superintendent. It'll be fine. Thank you very much.
We are here to present our petition for high school school bus. Most of the parents here live in the area between Memorial Elementary School and high school. Our kids do not get school bus for high school due to the 2.5 miles distance policy. However, we think this is an unreasonable and unfair policy to our family and students. Although many parents from our community has complained this with the transportation department many times before us, And the community right across our community, like the community right across Dahamas Collar Road, Riders Lane, Milltown Road, they all get school bus. And it's very easy to just add a school bus route for our community. But we don't have school bus for many, many years for our kids to go to high school. Without school bus, parents had to arrange transportation for the kids. However, not every family has a work from home mom or dad, or not every family or not has a flexible work schedule. Not every family, not every kid can easily find a couple from the labor. So in this situation, if both parents had to work, the kids had to walk to school and back to home every day, at least 20 to 30 minutes. Even 35 minutes. We have a lot of strong and reasonable concerns about our kids' walk to high school. Our high school is too close, but we think it's not safety for the kids to walk. My biggest concern is my kids' safety issue. The first one is the kids are facing criminal risks when they walk to school and back to home. You may think I'm over-concerned, but I can tell you not. It's not. As a parent, the kids' safety is my priority. It's not a safe world. Something happened in the other place, it may happen in our city. You may say East Brunswick is a very safe town. We never have anything happen here. However, for the school shooting, it's happening in other states, in other cities. We are scared, so we take action. We increase our school securities.
1 minute.
I have 1 minute?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So same reason, when I read those reports, I have concern about my kids walk to school every day. I will be worried about 3 years every day in the afternoon. I'll worry about her safety. So that's my biggest concern. I hope the Board of Education can consider our parents' concerns. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I'll respond to that. Let me tell you what I will do. And the superintendent's not here this evening, but one thing I will do is we'll refer this to the Transportation Committee. The board has a Transportation Committee, and I will refer to them to look at. You did correctly indicate what the law says. The law says that for secondary schools, 2.5 miles, for elementary, 2 miles. And we are, and I'm going to ask my board attorney, bound by those rules, I would think. We don't, like most districts, don't have subscription busing or courtesy busing. Some busing, if it is less than those mile guidelines, is because they live at a hazardous route. They're crossing a street that's very busy, like a Cranberry Road or a Riders Lane.
Or Route 18.
Route 18, then the law provides exceptions. Go ahead, Mr.
So
Chico.
the law lays out when districts have to provide busing for elementary or secondary schools. And for secondary schools, high school, it's a 2.5 mile. If you live greater than 2.5 miles, you get busing that is provided as in accordance with law. The other exception is if it's a hazardous route, and the hazardous route is determined, the Transportation Department reviews it, but ultimately the Police Department, and they have a traffic division, will go through all the routes to make an assessment of whether or not it qualifies as a hazardous route under New Jersey law. Those are the two permitted types of when you can give transportation. The courtesy transportation, if you gave it to everybody, you have to literally give it to everybody in town, and most districts do not do that because it's cost prohibitive. But I think as President Simmons says, we'll refer this over to the Transportation Committee, make sure that the Transportation Department has it, the East Brunswick Police Department has it, so that they can make the assessment and let us know if, I don't know the length of the route, I'd be misspeaking. Look at the length of the route and whether or not it qualifies, or any of it qualifies as a hazardous route.
Thank you.
Is there any possible I can, because you speak, is there any possible I can speak again?
No,
Okay.
sorry, I apologize. Do you have another gentleman who wants to speak?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Hugh Fabian, 22 Innes Road. That's a little bit near Memorial School also. And I'd like to talk about the East Brunswick High School bus issue. So at the beginning of this meeting, the slide presentation indicated that a commitment to air quality and traffic congestion. And every morning at the East Brunswick High School, there is a road that goes up to the high school, up the hill, and the cars are backed up all the way down Cranberry Road in the morning. And it creates a traffic congestion issue. In fact, one of my neighbors got a ticket trying to avoid that long line of cars. And also across the street, Cranberry Road, there's a little community, I forget the name of the street, but the cars have to park there and cross over Cranberry Road, which I might add is a large thoroughfare and is dangerous to cross over. So a lot of parents, when they pick up their kids in the afternoon, they have to park in that community. A lot of neighbors have complained to the police that people park in the driveways, that there's an overcongestion of cars, all waiting for their kids to come out of East Brunswick. And another bus or another set of buses would allay that congestion and parking problem there. People have gotten tickets also parking in that, trying to park in that area, which just doesn't have enough space for all the cars and all the demand for picking up the kids in the afternoon. Another thing I'd like to mention is my daughter has a backpack that must weigh 25 pounds. She weighs about 100 pounds, and she has to carry this backpack, 25 pounds, and it's filled with books. And the teachers really don't have any kind of regard for how many books the kids have to carry. And so to have kids walking to school over 2 miles with that backpack filled with 20 pounds of books is dangerous to them. My daughter has already complained about back problems. And so to have a bus that picks up the kids, all carrying backpacks of 20 pounds, seems to make sense to me. We're actually two miles from the school. And the third thing I'd like to say is my neighbor who picks up the kids in the afternoon, she actually has to change her lunch hour to 2 p.m. because she works and she can't take off in the afternoon, so she has to spend her lunch hour picking up the kids at the high school. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jerry Hilf, and I live on Willis Court, talking about the same issue. Please don't pass the buck to another committee. You guys need to make this decision, and it's the right decision to provide busing to all the students within that area, within 2 miles. Please don't pass it to another committee because it's going to get lost somewhere, and we're never going to hear about it again.
Well,
Additionally-
I'll stop you there. I can assure you
Okay.
that it won't get lost because the Transportation Committee is comprised of 4 of us,
Okay?
and we have to go through that because of, as Mr. Giacobi pointed out, there's police involvement in things. We can't just make
But it's just
decisions
more
without-
bureaucracy we have to deal with, and
It-
more
it isn't-
different
it
people.
isn't, though.
And
Mandated
I
by
understand
law.
what the
Yeah.
police have to get involved, because you provide busing for kids or you don't. What do the police have to do with it?
No,
I
the-
understand the law. I don't know who created this law. It doesn't make any sense to me. But you can, it sounds like, listen, I don't know the law, but can you provide busing for students that live within the 2 miles? Does it prohibit you from providing the busing? I don't think it does.
Ms. Giacobi can speak to that.
What it prohibits is, what it mandates is that if, the law that's passed is passed by the New Jersey legislature, signed by the governor. This has been in
Yeah.
place for a number of years.
Yeah, understand.
And then the Commissioner of Education, the Department of Education at the state level, promulgates regulations that regulate this. So mandated busing is, it's got to be greater than 2.5 miles for high school, or a hazardous route. Those are the two things. So
Right,
if you live 1.5 miles and it's not a hazardous route, the law does not mandate that busing is provided.
But if you
But, so, sir, if the district provides busing to people who live less than 2.5 miles and it's not a hazardous route, they have to provide busing to the entire community, not only public school students, but also private school students. So they have to provide courtesy busing for everybody. If kids go to parochial schools, private schools, and so then what happens is most districts do not do that because it becomes cost prohibitive. And
Understand.
you've read about districts that do it in Ocean County where they're literally $30 million in the hole because of the courtesy busing issue. But the law, in this instance, if you lived less than 2.5 miles, the police get involved because they help, the transportation department looks at it, but also the police who control traffic. They look at, they're the experts that know
I
about traffic
understand.
controls, crossing guards, et cetera, and they make that. The other thing to do is you lobby your legislature, because we have to comply with the laws that are passed by the state of New Jersey and the Commissioner of Education. The legislatures who represent you are people that you can go to and say, we think that the 2.5 miles is too onerous, can you reduce it? But that's something that this board is not empowered to do.
Understand, okay. I just want to mention also, I think it's a safety issue as well, because on Dunham's Corner Road, especially after snowstorms, no one plows the sidewalks over there because it's on a main road, and the sidewalks are very icy. It's very dangerous for these kids walking very close to a very major street. So, you might want to take a look at that with the police department, but especially in the wintertime after snowstorms, it gets very icy. But I understand the law, and providing busing for private schools, I don't realize that was part of the law. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do and bite the bullet and get it done, because we pay a lot in taxes, and most of our taxes go to the school district, and we do pay a lot. So there's money to provide air conditioning for the high school gym, which makes absolutely no sense to me. So there should be money in the budget to provide busing for all students, because it is a safety issue, first and foremost, as the other presenter said, especially in the world that we're living in today. who knows what can happen, because we live in a crazy world now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Allison Brown. I'm here tonight to implore you to reconsider the district policy of not providing busing for the children in the Apple Tree section of town who live within 2.5 miles of the high school. In full disclosure, this will one day affect my 2 children who are not yet of high school age. However, I'm not here tonight out of purely personal reasons. I'm here because every child who lives in this section of town who is not provided busing is in danger on a daily basis. I understand the district policy that busing is not provided for those children who reside within 2.5 miles of school. I ask you, when was this policy created? Does the policy in any way address the realities of today? It obviously does not. We had never had a policy until this year that we are going to have armed officers in each of our schools. Why did this policy change? It changed in reaction to the shooting at a school in Parkland, Florida. I stress, our change in policy was reactionary. The speed limit was changed on Dunham's Corner Road a few years back. Why did that happen? It happened in reaction to fatalities in a horrific and tragic accident. Why have speed limits on other township roads recently been reduced? They've been reduced for safety reasons, because of accidents. All those changes were for one core reason, safety. I stress to you now that the board must be visionary, not reactionary. The reality is that our children are being told that the most optimal route from our neighborhood to walk to the high school every day is through a cemetery. I repeat, our children are walking through a cemetery to and from school every day to receive their education. I repeat it to highlight its absurdity. No one should be forced to walk through a cemetery to get anywhere, much less our young teens to receive an education. I am not up here spewing baseless paranoia. The reality is that when schools themselves are no longer a safe place of sanctuary for our children, do I or does anyone else really need to tell you that the cemetery commute is not safe? The answer is rhetorical. And yes, as an alternative to the cemetery commute, the children could always stay on major roads for 2+ miles by walking on Dunham's Corner Road. The choice is between bad and worse, unsafe and extremely unsafe. It is time to stop talking and start doing. The cost to bus these children is small. The cost not to bus these children is a life, and it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Sarah Brown, and I am here today in reference of the school dress code. Although I am aware that these policies are meant to make sure that students have a distraction-free place to learn, I think that some of these policies being enforced may be a bit overbroad, such as the no shoulder showing policy or the hair policy. I've discussed some of these rules with my peers and have seemed to notice that they, along with me, are becoming frustrated that they cannot wear what they wish to. And the fact that they are not allowed to express their personalities in a respectful way is troubling to many. I would also like to express a situation that I was hearing from one of my fellow peers that both shocked and confused me. The person was wearing a t-shirt that covered their shoulders and was wearing a tank top underneath. An employee told the person that she was dress coded because they could see her spaghetti strap tank top beneath her shirt. This is a part of daily hygiene that should be enforced rather than discriminated. Also, I strongly believe that one should have the right to choose what hair color they would like. I have a friend who loved her purple hair but felt the need to change it because they didn't want to get into trouble. I find this highly unfair not only to her but to the others who are changing their own personal features because of a rule stating that they cannot do something to their own body parts, such as dyeing hair or certain types of clothing. One of my friends also stated, with the rules being enforced in this manner, we may as well be in school uniforms, meaning that we feel so limited on what we can wear from clothing to hair. Another rule states that your shoulders, back, and front, etc. all need to be covered. That would mean that you would need to wear a long t-shirt, a 3/4 sleeve shirt, or a long sleeve shirt. The dress code is stopping many people from enjoying most summer wear. and many kids are coming to school worried about whether they will be dress coded or not, and wearing things that do not properly express their personality. In other words, they are changing themselves to not get into trouble. I strongly believe that one shouldn't be punished for expressing themselves. I personally remember in school they would tell you to be yourself, but with the dress code, many feel that they can't. Based on the outfit that I am wearing tonight, I would technically speaking be violating the dress code at school. As you can see, the outfit is clearly appropriate and not something that would cause unwanted attention. On these pages are names of just a few of the many who agree with that the dress code should be changed to give people their rights. Would you like to see these?
These are 6th and 7th graders?
Yes, about 130 of them.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna touch it.
Yeah, no, you're not allowed.
A little sick.
A lot of kids.
I just want to add that was an excellent job on a persuasive argument. I know you have a mentor in the house that I like.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to add that, you know, it's very hard as an adult to get up to that podium and talk about a subject that you're passionate about. And you're clearly passionate about this subject. You have an incredible amount of poise, and you articulated your position beautifully. So I congratulate you on your presentation.
Yes, as we're sitting here looking for our children's name on that list.
Exactly what we should be doing.
I see a bunch of her friends on here.
Right, exactly.
Thank you very much. We will get that back to you.
You should get extra credit for the actual work
I'm
that
telling
went into
you.
writing that speech.
Yeah. That's a lesson right there. Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Sorties, and I am an East Brunswick High School senior this year. And I live in 5 Willis Court, and I would like to be talking tonight on behalf of my sister concerning the bus issue that was brought up earlier. So I would like to bring up my personal experience of commuting to school through these past 3 years walking. Some days it was just horrendous. After the snowstorms, the roads on Dunham Corner, as the other guy mentioned, were not cleaned, and I had to walk through at least sometimes like a feet of snow with my sneakers on. And by the time I arrived at school, my entire foot was freezing, and it was also soaked in water. And not to mention, this year when I walked through the cemetery, there was a memorial for someone who appeared to be the age around 20, close to my age. And well, I do not know the context of that memorial, but it seemed like he was in a motor accident. It was right on my route to school. And this is always a daily morbid reminder for me that there's always a chance that I could get hit by a car and killed on that same spot. Not to mention, during the winters, it's so dark when I have to start walking to school. The sun is not even out, and it's 6:50 in the morning. I can't even imagine what it'd be like for my little sister, who's only 7 right now. And I'm a pretty big guy, of weighing around like 200. It's such a big hazard issue. And my parents both work out of the town, so they do not have the opportunity to send me to school and to pick me up. So I've had to deal with this during my sophomore and junior years. Only this year where I was able to drive to school and also get my peers to pick me up, that I've been relieved from such a burden. It's just It's just such a massive hazard issue, and I wish you guys would be able to fix this for my sister. And also, you guys talked about the Dunham's Corner, a road being a hazardous road. But I often see so many people just running across Dunham's Corner when they're walking home from school to reach the other side without any concern. So it shouldn't be that big of an issue if our community also has a bus like the other community on the other side of Dunham's Corner. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sophia Bulya. I'm a junior at East Brunswick High School, and my address is 69 Farms Road Circle. I would also like to speak about the aforementioned transportation issue. And I'd like to bring up the fact that on Timber Road, approaching Dunham's, there are no sidewalks, which makes it extremely difficult to get to school. In the winter, this is especially hard because it's icy, and I've fallen numerous times and gotten on the bus bleeding in certain cases. So it's definitely unsafe, and it is a concern. I've had asthma, struggled with it throughout high school, throughout my childhood. So it's also quite difficult to make this commute for that reason. Wright Court, there was a car accident. I'm not quite sure when, but they receive bus now due to it was on Dunham's, I believe. So it is a hazardous area. I believe that should be looked into. And crossing through the cemetery is not, it's simply unsafe, and it shouldn't be what we have to do in order to get to school. And I would also like to agree with the former speaker on the issue of the school dress code. Friends have been sent home for clothes that were appropriate, and to sacrifice their education, it doesn't seem fair. The shoulder issue doesn't quite make sense to me, and I feel like it's giving people the wrong idea that their clothes are the issue, when we should be teaching people that objectification is a larger concern. So I think it's something to consider, that maybe in order to solve the issue at hand, what the dress code is supposed to address, we should try using education instead of a dress code that is restrictive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tom Slazak, and I live on Ranger Road. I'd also like to talk about the bus route issue. I have two daughters, one of them who will be going to high school in 2 years. So I am very concerned about her safety on the way to and back from school. One of the worst days I've had as a father is when I got a text message saying that there was a driver in a white van circling around the neighborhood trying to talk to kids on the way back from school. We're beefing up security in our schools due to school shootings that have been happening around the countries. I hope that we're being a little bit more proactive and taking the safety of our children on the way to school into consideration, and then maybe putting additional bus routes or bus stops on the way to prevent any kidnappings or anything happening to our kids when they're going to school or going back. Also, the issue about my daughter walking by the cemetery just to get her education is ridiculous. As the kid said, I mean, he's seen memorial services. That's just not right. Also, we had so many snowstorms in March. Most of us haven't even been able to go on a walk in our neighborhood because of the amount of snow that we had. Imagine our kids walking in that snow to school because we can't provide them with adequate busing. That's all I got to say about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm here to talk about the same issue about the busing.
Just have your name.
My name is Sanjay, and I live in 12 Melanie. The one concern, the two inputs which I want to add to whatever people raised is lately there have been people using cell phones. Kids use cell phones, people use cell phones. We can't prevent that. Driving with a text messaging can result in an accident, and so can kids who don't pay attention to when they cross can get hurt. That's one important issue. The second part, which is more of a suggestion. I mean, of course, Dunham's Corner is very busy, especially from where I'm looking. From my perspective, Dunham's Corner is an extremely busy road. Cranberry Road is an extremely busy road, and I think East Brunswick has grown over the past years to become a bigger community and a lot more traffic. The suggestion which I have to the transportation department is, can they, I mean, I know it's $30 million for providing a bus. Instead of that, can they make a catchment point where all the kids come to, and from there they are bused into school? That way they don't have to cross these hazardous roads and they don't have to do these things. So like, for example, Dunham's Corner and Jensen could be a point where they pick up the kids and they bus them to school. Maybe that way they avoid Dunham's Corner completely. So those are my points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to address the board? Please state your name and address.
Hi, my name is Sonia Vitani. I live on 4 Macintosh Court, also in the Apple Tree area. I have a sophomore in school. I have been a stay-at-home mom all these years, but for the past 3 weeks, I started working. I used to be the backup plan. Anybody at any time could call me. I was the pickup mom. I don't have anybody now. I can't rely on anybody else. I was the backup plan. So right now the weather is fine. My daughter walks back from school in the mornings. But in winter, just like the other people spoke about the bad weather, I worry about that part. I don't know what I'm going to do at that time and how she's going to walk in the dead of winter. One is the snow, the second is the extreme cold. There are times when in the news we hear that it's too cold, hazardous, you don't be out as long. Don't be out for too long if you don't really have to be out. But it doesn't mean the schools close those days. The kids still need to walk to school. And she now walks through the cemetery. And that is a concern too. Right now the weather is nice, but still she has to walk through the cemetery and it's lonely. It's not like there's a lot of foot traffic in that area. She walks alone. And the third thing is the backpack. There was a time when in karate she hurt her back, and I used to pick her up every day. But if that happens, she's now, because I work, she still has to carry her backpack and walk home. So I feel that, if we could have a bus, like somebody mentioned, maybe in certain areas, these kids are high school kids, not unlike elementary kids, they don't need it at every street corner. Maybe they could walk a short distance, but not, for us it's 1.9 miles exactly. That's the distance she walks back every single day now. So she doesn't have to walk 1.9 miles if we had a bus for every, not every block, but every 4 streets or something. And that would probably make it easier, is my thought. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address the board? State your name and address, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Priya Ballard, and I reside on 141 Dunham's Corner Road. And I am here to talk for not only my 2 daughters. One of them will be going into high school in a year's time. The other is in Memorial School in 4th grade. Yours is a great school district. Everyone says about security, but over the years, as you know, that with the population increase, however safe a community is, we also have to be additionally safe. And I work in Trenton in the state government in Motor Vehicle Commission. My husband works in downtown New York, and we have no way of carpooling or picking and dropping our kids once my daughter goes to high school. Right now, even in Memorial School, all these years since 2007, we were given a bus, and they took away the bus this year. And when I contacted the transportation center, they said, "Mom, you are having a daughter who is very safe to walk all the way from Memorial School in the same sidewalk, and she can reach your house." The unfair part is there is a stop sign where the bus has to stop for her anyway by law, but they are refusing to take her. But they have another kid just 3 houses down our house whom they take and bus her to Memorial School. That is one part which is not addressing the high school, I understand. But on the same way, for once my daughter goes into high school, My concerns are I have to make her walk all this 2 miles distance every day in the morning and night because I work in a 7 to 4 schedule, and to reach Trenton, I have to leave at 6:15 in the morning, and I cannot drop her at 6:15 at high school. Then I can ask her to join a security in an additional job if child labor is agreed. And the worst concern that is making me really worried today is we are also East Brunswick residents. We also pay the same property tax, but the left-hand side where we live of the Dunham's Corner Road is considered safe to walk for the kids to high school. But the right-hand side of Dunham's Corner Road, all the kids are getting bused to go to high school. All the kids on the right-hand side of Dunham's Corner Road, but if you measure the distance is the same. And we cannot put forth the point that the security aspect of the road, right? Like by just reducing the speed limit from 40 to 35 doesn't make it safe road. And I don't know whether my daughter is walking on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. Maybe her friend walks on the right-hand side, so she decides and she jumps across, or the other kid crosses the road, and there can be any accidents. So we cannot keep monitoring every day from work, leaving aside and making sure, okay, her cell phone is showing. Now we have so many apps on cell phone, Find My Friend, Life 360. All the time you cannot be sitting and watching all those 20 minutes whether the cell phone reached the school safely or whether she's receiving, I'm receiving a text from her that she reached home or she reached school, right? So all these are the parental anxiety that I'm currently undergoing. I don't know what to do, and I don't want to leave this school district or the neighborhood, and I don't have the money to buy a house where the bus is provided, just for the reason the bus is being provided. So if you can consider all these and all other parents' arguments and kindly address, it will be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to address the board? Thank you.
Hello, my name is Samaya Malik, and I am a resident of Willis Court. I don't want to say my exact address for privacy reasons, but East Brunswick is no stranger to inclement weather patterns such as snow and rain. And since both parents work mainly these days, there could be days where they're both at work and you have to walk to school and you have nobody to drive you. And so there is harsh weather during the winter and sometimes during the warmer months, such as April and May. And during the winter, if it's snowing or if it's cold or if a snowstorm has just passed, you could get a cold, and that results in sickness going around, and you might not know how deadly or dangerous the sickness is. And so a bus would provide shelter for students who don't want to get sick and want to continue with their education without getting sick, and they want to pass. And missing days, I know you can miss a lot of work, so that's why I think a bus should be needed near our court.
Hi, I'm Lauren Kuhn in 149 Dunham's Corner Road. My daughter is, in 6th grade now, so she will be getting the high school bus eventually. I actually grew up in the same house that I'm currently living in, so I had to do that trek myself when I was a youngster. I actually broke my ankle one time when I was a kid because of inclement weather. Now I understand that, everybody by law is supposed to shovel their sidewalks. They do not, just so you know. Or they do it after the kids leave for school because it's extremely early in the morning. And, kids have to deal with that. Now, I did it myself. I survived, obviously, with a couple of broken bones along the way, but I'd really appreciate it if that's a possibility to not have my daughter do that same experience. I always walked with my brother, who's a year older than me, so it didn't be, so when I had a safety plan, and I know that that's a concern for me because my daughter might be walking by herself, especially in today's day and age. But that was it. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katherine Yang, and I live on Willis Court. I'm a 7th grader at Hammersholt, and in a few years I will be also going to the high school for school. And I also have the same concern with buses because my side of the street doesn't have a bus, but the kids on the other side of the street have the bus. But our winters are just as cold as theirs, and our backpacks weigh the same, 20 or more pounds. So I find it unreasonable that they have buses while we don't, because Dunham's Corner Road is a busy street, as you guys mentioned, but kids who walk on this side of the street might also have to cross Dunham's Corner Road. You never know what path they might take to get to school. And with like the school shootings, I know you guys took like precautionary measures to make sure it doesn't happen in our community. Well, I think the same precautionary measures could also be used for these school buses so that accidents don't happen, like because it could happen in a matter of time and we might not be expecting it. So we should take measures to prevent that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, take your time. I even got the superintendent here for you now. Good evening.
My name is Jessica Mai. I live at the 80 Hilltop, above from the Memorial School. And I have the oldest son who's in senior at high school, and I have a sophomore and one 5th grade at Memorial. And every morning I have to drop off my boys to the high school and then pick them up. And I want to add on beside the backpack, actually when my older one started school, he's tried to walk to school about 35 minutes every morning. So he has to leave the house like around 6:40 to make sure he will get to the high school on time. And he also do the bowling. So he has no way to carry the backpack with the bowling and the ball, and also the instrument. So I have to give up my job and stay home and make sure he get to school on time and pick him up. And also I want to say that if you can provide the transportation, it helps most of the kids from our side. We live like more than 2 miles, but not more than 2.5 miles, like 2 point something. And certain street from my house to the high school is no sidewalk. So when we call the transportation, they use the route that go to the cemetery. But if we go to the cemetery, the other route, that route is further. If we go to the service, it will be a little bit closer, but there's no sidewalk for him to walk. So I also want to ask, like, you said the transportation and the police will do the assessment. Is it every year they will go to every street to do the assessment before they like decide which area they will give out the bus?
What's the question is whether the police do this every year, every street?
Yeah.
I don't think it's an annual thing. I think that a request is made to look at an area as a potential hazardous route, and then it goes, again, this is the way it has to work. The Transportation Committee, in consultation with the police, they will go out and do studies. The police department will.
Okay.
They have a scorecard, and they will look at the area. They'll look at traffic flow. They'll look at speed limits. They'll look at all the things in the area, and then they will come back with a recommendation. So
Okay.
it's really up to the police department, but it's only when you ask that they look at a
So
particular
we have
street.
to like send a request? Or?
You would send is it the request?
The request has already come in, so
Okay.
the assessment's being conducted.
Okay.
Yeah, I was talking generally, but yes.
Yeah, generally, yeah. Well, generally, I mean, the police department will also notify us. So, for example, if students have to cross Route 18, you can't put a crossing guard on Route 18, the police will notify the school that that is a hazardous route to cross a street like Route 18. So there are some ones that, the police notify us just generally, but in situations like this, there's an assessment done between transportation, the transportation department, the police department, and it ultimately comes back to the board committee, the transportation committee that Mr. Simmons referenced, to look at the entire matter. But we do have to consult with the police because they are the experts on the traffic patterns, traffic flows, et cetera. I mean, they're the ones that help set speed limits, where stop signs need to go. So that's why the state requires you to consult with the police department.
Right. Mr. Simmons, can I just make a comment?
Absolutely.
So our transportation director, at the beginning of the year, when they set the routes, she will physically drive the routes and make sure that they are all in compliant with the statute and the code. And so, as Mr. Jacoby, as Mr. Simmons said, if things change throughout the year, the police will notify us, or if parents notice something, they'll ask for a review of the route.
Okay.
Well, hold on. Yeah, everybody, you can all come up and speak, but we have to go with the individual at the podium, but please do come up if you have additional
Okay.
comments, but.
Yes, I agree with the parent. They should
Yep.
like walk in the morning and early morning and then the afternoon to see like.
Yes, thank you.
With the backpack
Okay.
and the instrument. And if the kid do the sport, they still have to carry another bag with the sport
Yeah.
gear.
No, I understand that. I understand that.
So-
We all have similar issues, but
Okay.
thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Anyone else wish to speak to the board? Good evening. Please do state your name and address.
Good evening. My name is Walter Martillo. I'm new in town, about a year. Live in 47 Farms Road, Circled. I've heard everybody's compelling argument. I think they're all valid. I'm sure you all agree with it as well. It's very difficult for me to think that this doesn't happen every year. This has got to be a concern. When I bought the house, I didn't know that was an issue, to be honest with you. My daughter was just going to 8th grade and she was going to a private school, and we were still considering her going back to continue to go through the private school system. So we didn't really look into that detail, so that was our mistake. But Cranberry Road is a county road, and it is dangerous. And then if you have your transportation officers go out and do the routes at like 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, it defeats the purpose. They got to do it during the school year so they can see how people are trying to get in there, juggling to get into the parking spaces to drop their kids off. I see it because I leave in the morning to go to work. And what I do for a living, I drive around the state because I work for the utilities. So I do see the madness. I can't believe that people have to endure this. The kids have to endure this. Aside from the safety, when I moved here in '95 from another country, South America, and I enjoyed walking to school. It was fun. Those days of kids walking together, I don't see that happening. You see like kids that you can tell they get bullied around by themselves walking, and I kind of feel bad. I'm like, I feel like, hey, you want to ride, but I'm like, I don't want to be like, like a person that's doing the wrong thing, But it's got to be a sense of something that could be done and not get lost in the bureaucracy. And if it's the police department, whoever at the county level, it is a county road, right? So if it's something that could be done to help the kids that have to cross that Cranberry Road, then at least let the community know what they can do proactively, not just come here every year. Again, I'm surprised that this is the first time. I'm here to support my fellow residents here. My daughter is an active athlete, so she might not have the problem. She might get a ride from one of her older teammates. But, it just seems that there's something that could be done. And if it's something that as a community that we can do, then, just make it public so we have the opportunity to do it. If we have to pay more taxes or whatever, pay for it, then give the people the opportunity to pay for it. If that's even whatever needs to be done. But that's, again, I'm not a public speaker, but hopefully I was not all over the place. But I think everybody here so far, safety, the number one thing, kids getting hurt walking. I bike a lot, and those walkways on Durham corners are all over the place. You can really hurt yourself if you're not paying attention when you're walking. So I'm sure you guys would like to do something, and if it's a joint effort, so be it. I think that we all want to get to the same point, just to get kids to school safe, not have to deal with the harsh weather. And I know they call off days, and they stayed home. But it sounds like everybody's here having a lot of problems with that, and not get lost in the bureaucracy of like, okay, we'll talk to the police department or to the transportation department. Something could be done, as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But to answer your question, no, folks don't come every year. They do every now and then. They often will call transportation, but it's not every year. And you did just fine. I will say the kids spoke better than the adults this evening so far. They did, and have a bigger impact, I think, sometimes. But we clearly hear you. But please come on to the podium.
Hi, good evening. My name's Silvia Malik. I live at the same undisclosed location as the other young lady in Willis Court who happens to live with me. I actually just have a question.
Yes.
Dr. Valesky, you mentioned that the police does an assessment of driving the routes. I wonder if there can be factored into that assessment how long it takes for the children to actually walk to school. Because my stepdaughter, who went to East Brunswick High School, who's graduated now, it used to take her about 40 minutes to walk to school. So can we factor that into the decision of like how, if kids are walking 35, 40, 50 minutes to school, and with inclement weather sometimes taking it to an hour, if they have to deal with difficult circumstances, I would just like to request that be factored in, not just the police doing a driving assessment.
My hunch
of the route.
is
So, yeah.
my hunch is that goes into the mile limit, the
That's
2.5
the
is what that's part of it.
Right, but
Yeah, so the state Commissioner of Education, through regulations that have been promulgated over the years, has made the determination that 2.5 miles, anything greater than 2.5 miles requires transportation for high school students. If it's less than 2.5 miles, then unless it's courtesy busing that as I explained, it would have to be provided to everybody, parochial, et cetera. It has to be a hazardous route. So the hazardous route assessment is what's taking place to see if Dunham's Corner Road and Cranberry Road and Crossing, et cetera, constitutes a hazardous route. So that's what the police, the Transportation Department, the Board of Education, Dr. Valesky, work with the police because they're the experts in traffic flow, traffic pattern, et cetera.
Right, and so my question is, in terms of the hazardous route, determining what that is that the walking route that the children take?
Yeah, they look at the walking route.
They look at the walking route.
Yeah, they look at the walking route.
Okay.
So you could have a hazardous route that's a half mile. I mean, you might be a half mile away from the school, but if you have to cross Route 18, they could say that's a hazardous route.
Right.
So the distance on a hazardous route is not the factor, is the route that people have to walk. Is there a safe way to walk on that route with sidewalks, crossing guards, traffic controls, et cetera? And that's why we consult with the police, because they're the experts in that area.
Right, and just to put another point out there, when my stepdaughter had to walk to school, she suffers from seizures. And so there is that additional factor of certain stuff, like I'm hearing about the sports equipment and everything like that, and I understand that the 2.5 mile is a kind of, a measurement for that. But with all these additional impediments, children who have health issues with sports equipment, I just think that should be a factor in thinking about a child walking 40 minutes unimpeded with nothing, with a bowling ball and with, all these other things, or a child with seizures or who has asthma, which, a lot of our kids have these types of issues, or they play sports. I think that needs to be part of the factoring of thinking about whether a neighborhood gets a bus. So I wholly support the initiative, and I just wanted to express that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make a comment.
Mrs. Chu?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment that, I think everyone here, are parents and we're sympathetic to the message that we're hearing. But as Mr. Giacob said, what we do here is in the context of the law and the regulation. So those are things that I think we work with, and we'll have to figure it out. But we are all sympathetic to the challenges that the children face.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Brian Meltzer. I'm at 49 Rath Lane. I wanted to thank everybody for listening to our concerns of the community. I think a lot of the parents and the kids, I think the kids said it the best, but I'm not going to restate any of that because I have a lot of the same concerns. One thing that I didn't hear is that in our neighborhoods there are a lot of uneven sidewalks and tripping hazards and things like that. So that's one thing that I hope they take into consideration. But again, I just wanted to thank you for your time and listening to us and let you know that there's a lot of parents out there that have these concerns.
Thank you. Okay.
Can I just ask one question?
Yeah,
It's just one question. A lot of talk has been about hazardous routes. Hugh Fabian, 22 Innes Road. Wouldn't you consider a cemetery where the high school opens before dark, where kids are walking in the dark through a cemetery? Wouldn't that constitute a hazardous route?
That is a question, I think, for the police. And we talked about that earlier, but that is a question for the police.
We'll make sure that they're aware of it. when they're making this assessment.
Thank you. Mrs. Becker.
First of all, the woman who was concerned about the 2.5 miles being a policy and wanted to know when we put this policy in place. Again, I just want to ask Mr. Jacoby to explain the difference between a board policy and a state mandated
law.
So the board policy in place really just reiterates or restates what the state law provides. So when you look at the board policy, it talks about hazardous routes. It actually cites the statute where this all derives from. And if you pulled the state statute and the accompanying regulations that are promulgated by the state, the board policy mimics those. It's just we capture it here locally because the board has to follow the policy, and all these policies that the board, these are mandated policies that we have to follow through the state. So the board does not make the 2.5 mile law, the board does not make the hazardous route law. These are all done through the legislature and the Commissioner of Education, but as a local board of education, we're mandated to follow that law and have it codified in a local policy for us. So a lot of what we're hearing this evening, I think everyone's sympathetic, but as you know, there's lots of laws that are out there that don't always make a whole lot of sense that we have to follow because we do not promulgate those laws. The one area that we can look at, and that's what we are doing, is the hazardous route. If it's not a hazardous route and it's less than 2.5 miles, there's virtually nothing this board can do. If it is a hazardous route, like I said, it could be a 1/2 mile, but if it's a hazardous route, in consultation with the police, then the board can grant a hazardous route exception for busing. The reason that they have these exceptions is, again, if you don't have this, it's called courtesy busing. If you provide courtesy busing to one area of the town, you have to provide it to the entire town, both public and parochial schools. And you can read in the papers, just do a Google search, courtesy busing, and you'll read about communities in New Jersey where the courtesy busing is literally crippling the community because the cost is, there's one district, I think they had to get a $23 or $25 million loan from the state because of the courtesy busing. So, you know, the district has a budget that they have to live with, again, mandated by law. So what we're confined to is looking at the hazardous route, and we'll do that, and the Transportation Committee will consult with the Director of Transportation, Dr. Valesky, the police, and ultimately making whatever recommendations they have for us, given the different routes, and of course, taking into account what you had indicated, walking through the cemetery, does that constitute a hazardous route, et cetera. So they'll take all that into account and then make a determination.
Just one more thing, Mr. Simmons. Yeah. Thank you. I wanted to piggyback a bit on what Susanna said, but also what a couple of you said about the Transportation Committee. So I want to assure you, I've been on the board over 18 years, and I have served on the Transportation Committee for many of those years. This committee is only board members, okay? And we have the route evaluated by the police, and we have it evaluated by our Transportation Department. And yes, sir, the man who brought it up, the very good point. We insist that the route is evaluated at the time that the children are using it, and not 9 or 10 in the morning after school, or in the middle of the night, or in the middle of the day. We demand that the route is evaluated when the kids use it. That was a very good point that you made. And I want you, excuse me, sir, I'm about to get to that. I want to assure you that the route is not just driven, it is walked. I want to assure you that we do take into consideration, everybody knows there are issues that can't be quantified, can't be qualified, right? About anything. And we do take that into consideration. We are all parents. We have all experienced what you're experiencing with our children who don't receive a bus to a school because of the distance. We can't approve, as Mr. Giacobbe explained, every route because then we'd have courtesy busing issue. But the Transportation Committee exists for one reason only, to hear parent requests that are brought to our attention, one of the ways by this. And that committee meeting does nothing but go over this route, based on a matrix, based on facts, but also based on all the things you're talking about. I can't always promise people that we come up with the answers that you want, but I can promise you the integrity of this board is that we listen and we take things into consideration, and I don't want anyone to feel that we're passing a buck onto bureaucracy. That's not how we work. It was important for me to say that, and I thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Mrs. Becker. Anyone else wish to make comments, please come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Rachna Modi. I just had one point that in case you all cannot provide busing for everybody, since courtesy busing is expensive and we understand that, can you all at least provide an option where parents can pay for the buses, you know, probably subsidize something for us and at least have an option that, you know, parents who want to sign up for the buses can do that?
Well, why don't we'll first have the hazardous route looked at, and if not, the law does provide for the provision called subscription busing where people pay for it. I don't want to speak to that because I don't have the expertise. I don't know the neighborhoods and the layout, but let us first do the hazardous route.
Yes.
And then if that doesn't work out, then we can look for other alternatives such as that.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else who hasn't spoken wish to address the board? Yes.
Just a quick question. My name is Prabha Chidambaran. So I was just wondering, is the Transportation Committee meeting open to the public?
It is not. It is not an open meeting. No. This is the open meeting here, which is very, very helpful to the board, but as Mrs. Becker pointed out, it's board members. But the Transportation Committee is the police, and it's the board and administration. Okay. Anyone else wish to address the board?
Yeah, my name is Yang. I live in Nunwich Court, East Brunswick. So I just trying to add some information. First, school year is 12 years, right? 12 years. But we don't have school bus for 8 years. 5 years for primary, 3 years for high school, right? We pay the same tax property tax rate, same as the Dad Road across the Cranberry Road. So we don't have. You can imagine we don't have school bus for 8 years, in 12 years.
Sir, you have to address the board.
Yeah, hello. So, and when you talked about the north, so I have more information. In the Marlboro, Montgomery, and Homedale, they provide a school bus for all family, all students. Did they break the law? I don't think so. So, especially in the winter, you know, the coldest time every day is 5 to 7 o'clock, right? In the winter, it's still dark. You can think about it, the kids holding like a 20 pounds pack in the dark road, in the coldest time, walk to the school for like over 30 minutes. So is that what we want? Just think about that.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who's not addressed the board wish to address the board?
Can I ask one more question?
Well, since you're a student, you get to ask one more question. You can come up. But no more adults who've already spoken.
I'd like to bring up a proposition. So I've seen a bus stop on Dunham's Corner Road. I believe it's for Hammersholt. I'm not too sure. But when buses stop, we're all aware that both sides of traffic have to stop too. So what about for the high school? We have the bus also stop on Dunham's Corner Road, have our community just wait on the other side of Dunham's Corner Road, and when the bus is stopped, just have the students board the bus along with the other community. I don't know like how occupied the buses are, but like should this could happen, right? Right? All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else who's not addressed the board wish to address the board? Please come to the podium.
Good evening. My name is Diane. I live at Covington Court.
And I really understand that this is a big concern for the transportation for all the kids and the parents and for this issue. But I want to bring up another issue. Okay, I want to start with two questions. Well, I am a parent of a 6th grade student. She's in public school for 7 years. She started from pre-K to now 6th grade. I never have any opportunity to be asked for my input for the teacher's evaluation. I just want to ask the board members how the teachers are evaluated and how often they are evaluated. Because the reason why I want to bring up this issue is because of my younger son. He's now in 1st grade, and he first, at the beginning of January, he was bullied, pushed by another kid in the same class. Okay, so I addressed this issue to the teacher, and she was either not able to do anything or was not willing to do anything because the boy's mom is a grown parent. Okay, so I have to bring this issue up to the counselor twice, met with her twice, and it escalated to the principal. And I met her, and eventually about a month later, that this problem was solved.
Yeah, let me stop for 1 second. Couple things.
Sure.
We can certainly answer the question about evaluations quickly because I will tell you that's a couple of hours of a continuing education seminar. If specific issues with your child, you must talk to the administrator of your building for 2 reasons. It's a privacy issue, but I want to make sure the administrator of your building knows what's going on so they can address it. Okay?
Yeah, I'm getting to that point.
Yeah, so I don't want you to bring up your specific children's issues here until you've had that opportunity to talk with your teachers, administrators, et cetera.
Sure.
That's-
I'm getting to that point very quickly.
Okay.
And also, I want to bring up my concern. Is there any way, anyway, so after the bullying situation was solved, right? But the teacher keeps sending me emails of my son's misbehavior. He's only a 1st grader. Okay, he was picked, I think, blamed for some wrongdoings, but that was not acted by him. Okay, so long story short.
Ma'am, we're not, just so you're clear, we're not going to discuss any personnel matter here. We're precluded by law, so while you're free to say these, it's what Mr. Simmons said, these are issues that are better directed to administration. If your building principal, if you've addressed it with the building principal, you're not satisfied, my suggestion is to contact Dr. Valesky and have the superintendent handle it, because we're not comfortable, A, discussing personnel matters. By law, we're precluded. They have a right to privacy, as does your student. So I think it'd be probably better, a more effective way for you to contact Dr. Valesky so Dr. Valesky can address it and understand what's going on. The issue of evaluations, again, mandated by law. Every teacher has to be evaluated. New teachers have to be evaluated multiple times every year. It happens every year. And every teacher in New Jersey, their evaluations, which are promulgated by the state, factor in many things. Student growth objectives, many, many components. It's very detailed. And we have administrators who spend virtually 50 to 60% of their time evaluating staff. So everyone is evaluated, but if there's a particular issue and you're not getting satisfaction at the building level, we would ask that you please contact Dr. Valesky, the superintendent, and he could best address it. Because doing it in a public forum puts us in a position where we can't respond to you, and I would encourage you that you not talk about your student or daughter or son.
Okay,
publicly.
one more sentence before I bring up my proposal. By tomorrow, Friday, it will be 2 weeks that I brought up this issue to the principal. But as far as now, no one replied to my email for almost 2 weeks, okay? But my question is it possible that as taxpayers, the evaluation, please consider the parents' ideas, how the teachers are doing, how they communicate with the parents. I'm not asking for a big portion of the evaluation from the parents' ideas, opinions, but maybe 10%, 15%, or whatever, a proper portion that reflecting parents' opinions. Is it possible? Is it doable?
I'll respond to two parts here. First of all, the evaluations, as Mr. Jacoby pointed out, are mandated by law, so we follow that model.
Well, the second issue, President Simmons, is that parents are not involved in the evaluation process. However, if parents have issues with a particular staff member, they bring it to the building principal, and ultimately to the building principal or to Dr. Valesky. And that's something where the building principal, the administrators are made aware of things, and then they can address them. And if they see a pattern, that tends to be reflected in evaluations.
Yeah.
But the only way a building principal or Dr. Valesky knows is if a parent makes the building principal. And we always ask that people start off at the lowest level. If you're not getting satisfaction with the teacher, you go to the building principal. And if you're not getting satisfaction with the building principal, then you come to central administration and Dr. Valesky and the assistant superintendents, who then can help address the situation.
Sure, understand.
And I'm going to call, when I call recess shortly, I'm going to ask you to talk to Ms. Atkins, and she will put you in touch with the right individual to take care of your particular concerns, okay? So we don't do it, do it in a public forum.
So basically, my answer is no for putting parents' opinions into a survey.
Well, let me clarify, because parents' concerns, if they use the appropriate channels and they go to the building principal, and the building principal is dealing with issues with a staff member because of parental complaints, it will eventually make its way into an evaluation. So the parents don't directly have input and feedback on a teacher's evaluation, but through the channels that have been established by law, the parents can talk to the appropriate people, the appropriate administrators, being the principal of your child's building. That would eventually make its way into an evaluation if there was a recurring theme that was established and verified. But we would have to investigate. So we don't use hearsay. We just don't take somebody's word for it. We have to investigate those types of things.
I understand. I remember probably at the end of last year, we get surveys regarding to what kind of holidays that we want to have the days off. And is it possible, like some type of about the same level of service that can send to parents, at least the school administrators, they have some feedbacks from the parents as a general, not particular issue, but for also I hope this kind of like evaluation or survey can also help the teachers to realize, well, I'm not saying that all the teachers are perfect or they are or like bad, but I'm thinking maybe the parents' input can help the teachers to realize what they are good at and what they are not good at. And this is the win-win situation that we can help each other, eventually helping the kids.
Well, I think we do a very good job of telling our staff what they're good at and what they need to improve upon, because we have a lot of professionals that are in the classrooms and giving feedback all the time to our teachers. And there's a lot of training that goes into this, so it's just not a lay person coming off the street and giving feedback to a teacher. The people that are doing the evaluations have to go through a lot of training too to understand what they're looking at in a classroom to provide that effective feedback to a teacher. It's a lot more complex than a lot of people think.
But is it possible that the kids' feelings and parents' feedbacks should be considered too? Because we are putting the education onto the kids eventually. We want the kids to grow and benefit from that. But if this kind of evaluation is not considering the kids' feeling,
1 minute.
It's not considering the kids' feeling and the parents' feedback, what is the purpose for the communication or for the education then? So you guys don't, I mean, not in person, but if the school system, the district is not thinking about the school, the parents and the teacher, so why bother doing the evaluation anyway? Whatever, we are not professionals. So whatever you guys say, okay, evaluation. We don't need teachers, we don't need kids' feedback.
Well, I think every element of our school district resides around relationships with our community. So that is at every level of the organization, whether it be the administration or the teachers or even the support staff or the bus drivers. We all are important. They're important components about relationships with the community. But I don't want the community to misunderstand that one issue with one parent would result in a situation in a teacher's evaluation. We handle those as singular events, and we have processes to do that, as Mr. Giacobbe said. So there's your situation that you're describing. Be happy to talk to you after the meeting, or we'll get information and we'll get back to you tomorrow to resolve that.
Yes,
But
when I call recess, I think that would be a good idea. Well, and while call recess, you'll have an opportunity to talk with our administrators
As far
about
as
that.
I know, this is not a single incident. I know some friends and some other neighbors, they do have some
we
issues
we
too.
can't get into staff issues
Details,
here
I know.
at the public meeting, so
Okay.
I will have to ask you during the recess to do that.
Sure.
I think we are at 5 minutes now.
Okay. So my purpose is just to bring to, the BOE's attention and then the
Thank you.
parents' attention too.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Anyone else this evening wish to address the board?
I just want to make a quick comment.
Chu.
That, as a parent, before I was on the board, I've had the experience of having to provide feedback. And I did go through the channels and I spoke to supervision. And I did feel listened to, and there were consequences and outcome. So, as Dr. Valesky explained, there is a process. And I've experienced it as a parent before I was on the board.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, I will close the public portion, and we will take a 2-minute recess.
I have one sentence to say.